One of the members of our studio audience, Carol's a nurse, and she came up to look at Todd's injury.
That was very sweet of her to do.
Yes, it was. And it sounds like everything's good. No amputation. Don't need any shots.
You were rooting for me to lose my leg, though. I'm working with you over 20 years. You're like, hey, maybe they'll take your leg off and you could limp home.
But is that good content for the show?
It's good content. I know deep down I don't think you would mean that you'd want me to.
Stop being so selfish, Todd.
Yeah, why don't you give back to the show? Lose a leg, get back to the show.
I got Carol's number in case this gets infected.
That's not why you have Carol's number, dude.
It's nobody's business between me and Carol. That's between me and Carol.
Yeah. He wanted to know about her bedside manner, and not the bedside manner you're thinking. You
know what? Tell you something in private.
Yeah, you can't do that. I heard you say you have very good bedside manner.
I did. I didn't mean anything. She had that business.
Brent Musburger is a Hall of Famer. And he's going to be busy this weekend. He's going to be the countdown to kickoff with Brent Musburger and airing Sunday mornings at noon Eastern on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. You can find out more, VSIN.com. Let's welcome in Brent Musburger.
Man, the group is here. Look at this. You got a live audience. All right.
Laddie.
Holy lad. Lad, how are you?
Hi, buddy.
You got the whole gang
here. Yeah, we brought them all
I got a
out.
microphone sponsored by Mercedes.
Yep.
Wow, that's great.
We got it all. Yeah, got to pay for this trip, Brent.
Listen, how about this crowd?
It's awesome. Yeah.
Terrific.
If I would have told you 10 years ago we're having a Super Bowl in Vegas, you would have said what?
I would have laughed.
Yeah. How did we get here?
Well, the Supreme Court brought us here. When they legalize gambling on sports, the NFL realizes we got to embrace this in some manner, because otherwise it could get out of our control. For example, let me give you a prop you can't bet on this week, okay? Yeah. The number of yellow flags that will be thrown. The NFL insisted with DraftKings, FanDuel, all the rest, and we stay away from the officiating. And they agreed to do that. Otherwise, offshore, you were always able to bet how many penalties, how many holding calls, things like that. So the NFL became part of it, and now gambling's a big sponsor. The other side of it is Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, he helped Mark Davis get the Raiders in here. And then Mark Bedane, who was in working with the Raiders, built this beautiful stadium, Allegiant. And the rest is history. Mark and Jerry lobbied the league, and here we are with a Super Bowl in Las Vegas.
What made the commissioner kind of change his opinion? He was worried about the integrity of the sport.
Yeah,
what has changed to ensure the integrity of the sport?
I think you have to stay close with it. Now, and most of the betting, as your audience knows, because some of them do, you bet on your phones. It's all the apps that you go to. In the old days, we used to come out here and my buddy Jimmy the Greek, we would go to the Barbary Coast and stand in line at a window. And I said, Greek, how come you always come to the Barbary Coast? He said, Brent, because in parlays, ties win. Okay, so so now the Greek and I, we would just, I use the phone because I live here in Las Vegas and have the different apps with the casinos, and you're tracked. I mean, everybody's got a cell phone.
Yeah.
So you get ads that come your way based upon what you're looking at. I mean, the technology is unbelievable. Tracks you where you are, knows all things about you. And so, listen, they know about every gambler who comes on board, whether he's the $20,000 bettor or the $20 bettor. They know.
What's the most you bet on a football game?
On a single game? The Greek and I, maybe 5,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's back in the 70s that you bet $5,000?
Yeah, let's see. That was in the 80s.
Okay.
Good story.
Yes.
So, the Eagles, coached by Dick Vermeil, are playing the Raiders, owned by Al Davis. And you should know, I think I've told you about this before, the Greek and Al Davis were the closest of friends. I don't ever remember Jimmy coming on the NFL Today without having talked to Al either on Saturday night or Sunday morning. They're getting the latest scoop, okay, around the league. So Al said to Jimmy, we were down in New Orleans, and he said, Greek, he called him Greek. Greek, the Eagles aren't fast enough to stay with us. They don't have enough speed. And Al was a speed guy. That's what made the Raiders in the early days.
So this is the Super Bowl. Ron Jaworski against the Raiders.
Yep.
Rod Martin.
Rod Martin.
Okay.
You remember him?
Yeah.
And Jaws.
Jaws,
and all
yeah.
that. So the Greek came, Brent, how much money can you raise? Okay.
Raise.
I said, well, let me go around and see. So I think I was collecting $5 bills from somebody that we get together. And it was no contest. I mean, the Raiders got it on top and took it home. And it was an easy. I think it was the biggest win of the Greeks' life.
That sounds like insider trading there, Brent, is what that does.
To that point, the integrity of the game, insider trading, that's why the NFL has always been the best of all the pro leagues about injuries. Injuries are critical information for bettors, okay? I was asked by somebody yesterday, I was over at Circa at the VSiN studio, and I was asked, how's Kittle's toe? I said, well, I'm assuming it's going to be okay because they haven't, but we won't get our first injury report until today. Today is actually the first practice day for the Niners and the Chiefs.
We're talking to Brent Musburger, the Hall of Famer. You've had this incredible career. You're part of the reason why I got in this business because I saw what you were doing. I didn't know how to get there, but you were talking football. You had people on the set, and then you started hosting a lot of different things. But were you poolside with Joe Namath at the Fountain Blue in Miami when he made the prediction?
Yeah, I sure was.
Now you're a reporter in Chicago.
I am.
Correct?
Chicago's American, okay? Afternoon paper owned by the Tribune. It had been a Hearst paper, and the Chicago Tribune company bought it, so it was an afternoon paper, and I was there at Super Bowl III. And it's an amazing story because a group of us, Jerry Green was there from Detroit, Cy Burek from Dayton. So we got in our cars, and I think we took a couple taxis, actually. They were staying in Lauderdale. So we went up to the hotel, and in those days, today, if you try to go into the hotel, you're going to get stopped at the door. You're not going in to see anybody from the Chiefs or the Niners. But in those days, it was wide open. So we went to the bellman and asked him, is there anybody around from the Jets? I said, hey, Namath is out back by the pool. Bada bing. Out we go. There were people down. He was so accommodating. There were fans out there. They had surrounded his lounge chair and getting his autograph and asking him about the game. And he was just stretched out enjoying the sunshine. And so about half a dozen of us went out there and interviewed him. Now, he actually made the promise that they were going to win the night before at a dinner, at a gala at a country club. That's where he first made it, all right? I was there with Dave Anderson from the New York Times and my wife. We went out and had dinner, and he stood up. He said it kind of matter-of-factly, okay? I guarantee we'll win this game. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, it later sounded like it was braggadocio, but he didn't express it that way. Just, okay, we're going to win. And away we spent out there at poolside. There's the famous picture of us out there. And we were out there for a good hour with him. Then he finally had to go in for a meeting. But Joe was always great with fans. I mean, people even now, he lives down in Jupiter, Florida, when I lived down there, and people would stop him for his autograph and that. And,
but I wonder if the Jets don't win that game. What happens, what changes, if anything, in the NFL AFL?
I'm not so sure that the complete merger comes about, to tell you the truth.
Most important
I
game
call
in
it
history?
the most important game in the history of what we now call the National Football League, okay? Mm-hmm. The first game, which I covered as a writer, was in the Los Angeles Coliseum. Chiefs were there, and they lost to Vince Lombardi and the Packers. Lombardi, he felt a lot of pressure, Dan, and he hid the Packers up in Santa Barbara, and he made it clear to all of us, stay away. We never talked to Lombardi before the game. Hank Stram, come on, let's have a cocktail in Long Beach. You know what I'm saying? He was entirely
So Vince
different.
is worried that if they lost to the AFL,
he he felt the pressure of the entire National Football League on his shoulders.
And then
we
he won
later
two
talked
of
a
those.
long time about it.
Yeah.
And he said it was the most pressure he'd ever felt going into a game. So, all right, the NFL wins the first two. Okay, they go down, they win the second one, Packers, and that was Vince's last game when he beats the Raiders. Last game as coach of the Packers. So then we come to Super Bowl III. And because of what Vince had accomplished the first 2 years, all the bookmakers out here made the Colts an 18-point favorite, okay? An 18-point favorite, okay? You talk about easy money if you were a Jets fan, okay? And you knew Vinny down in the bar or something, you know what I'm saying? So it was stunning. Earl Morrall, Johnny Unitas, both quarterbacking the Colts, couldn't get it done. And the Jets won going away, and now suddenly that forces the hand. We got to have a complete merger between the old AFL and the NFL. It is the most important game in the history of the league, bar none. I mean, that and the first one, because the Packers were able to beat the Chiefs in Super Bowl I.
We're talking to Brent Musburger, the Hall of Famer. The state of where we are. Can you have too much football?
It's a good question. We'll see what the ratings are with the Spring League coming up, Dan. We'll watch and see what eyeballs. I mean, I'm as amazed as these folks are out here at what Taylor Swift was able to accomplish with the ratings this year. I mean, like the fact that she's around or not, it's irrelevant. It has been great for the NFL. It has been, I can't believe how many youngsters now watch the games because of her. They follow her. Mm-hmm. And it's a demographic that's been added to the league. So certainly what we've come through out of COVID in that, I don't think so right now, not with the National Football League. And of course, the commissioner announcing on Monday that the Eagles are going to go down and be they'll be the home team in Brazil on that Friday. Now, that's another night, you know. Thursday will be the opening. The champion Sunday will host a game on Thursday. But then Friday, the Eagles will host a game down in Brazil. And then on Sunday, everybody will be in action, and there will be finally a game on Monday.
One of our favorite moments, you were in the booth with Kirk Herbstreit, and Eminem came into the booth.
I was so hoping he'd make it to the Super Bowl so we could have both he and Taylor Swift sing the national anthem. You know, I just thought that was...
Okay, how much did you know about Eminem when he came into the booth?
I knew his name, and that was about it.
Okay. Wait, you kept calling him Mathers.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Mathers.
Hey,
Mathers.
How are you, Mathers?
Yeah.
You know what was interesting, Mathers? He wasn't high. Now, everybody thinks he was because he came in, he's standing between Herbstreit and me, and he was not familiar with the monitors, so he was looking at himself, and he kind of froze on the camera, and everybody came and said, "Oh, Brent, you had Eminem on, and he was so hot." I said, he wasn't. You know, oh, no, it was great. We laughed about it.
Now that you tell me that, because he's like looking, and his eyes are big.
His eyes are huge. And he's looking at himself, okay? You know, because we've got the monitors there.
I thought he was kind of mocking you guys or like messing with you guys.
No, not at all. Not at all. But he could have been nicer. And also, he was a knowledgeable fan, you know, and when you see him at the Lions games and that, he knows what's going on out there.
So he wasn't high, but you and Herbstreit were high when you were doing the game. Is that...
Don't give away my secrets. I mean, these are my good friends out here. You know what I'm saying?
You haven't done a gummy in a while, have you?
Right.
We were wondering about a football Hall of Fame. Basketball has a basketball Hall of Fame. So you can be a great college player and go into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Or great,
right.
Then you are an NBA player. Football doesn't have that. Would you like to see a universal football Hall of Fame? So Tim Tebow's in the Hall of Fame. Cam Newton is in the Hall of Fame. Johnny Manziel would be in the Hall of Fame because of what they did in college.
Well, that's interesting. I'd never thought about it, and because we have Canton, for the NFL, and that's a wonderful Hall of Fame for football.
Are you in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Not that I know of. I was on gummy when I.
So contributions to the game. You started the pregame show.
Yeah, that's an interesting story because
Would you like me to write a letter on your behalf? I did this for John Facenda because I said it's a travesty that the voice of the NFL is not in the Hall of Fame, and I give them credit. They responded to me and they put him in the Hall of Fame. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm gonna.
Thank
You
you.
should be. No, I'm serious. I would do that.
Thank you, Dan.
I would do that. You should be in the profile. You were the first pregame show, Brent. You've been. Now I'm pissed off. That you're not in the Hall of Fame. Okay,
That's
but
very nice.
let me work on that. Let me work on
Thank
that.
you.
You should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Contributions to the game. You should be.
I want to take you back to the first pregame show that we did.
Okay.
As to how it started.
Now, can I take a break?
Sure.
And then we come back and give you a little bit more time?
Sure.
Okay, all right. We'll come back. We'll come back with the future Pro Football Hall of Famer, Brent Musburger, right after this in the Dan Patrick Show. Hall of Famer, and maybe one of these days in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Brent Musburger, managing editor of VSiN. And countdown to kickoff with Brent, that'll be Sunday mornings, noon Eastern. And it's the Sports Betting Network. Find out more at vsin.com. All right, before the break, you were telling us when you started the first pregame show.
Yeah. We had announcers who went to the games to do halftime and postgame.
Yeah.
And I was one. And we got a call from the head of sports at CBS, Bob Wessler, and he said, Brent, Jack Whitaker and Pat Summerall tape a show on Friday, okay? He said, but I want to eliminate that and go live for the 30 minutes, okay? And he said, do you know Irv Cross? And I laughed, and I said, I know him very well because we were at Northwestern together, and I was a gopher, really, for the Daily Northwestern. The sports editor was upperclassman, and so I would have to go get quotes from Coach Eric Parsegan, who was there before he went to Notre Dame, and Irv, and I said, Irv is a delightful man. And I said, heck of an athlete. So it was going to be the two of us. And about 6 weeks later, I get a call from Mr. Wessler, and he said, Brent, do you know a Miss America by the name of Phyllis George? And I go, Bob, I'm sorry, but I really don't follow the Miss America pageant. I said, if you ask me who the quarterback is for the Colts, I might be able to tell you. And he said, I want to bring her in on the show. Now, I'm not going to say no, let's do it. And it was a great addition because Irv and I had rehearsed and practiced in halftime. We know how to do the highlights and all that. But Phyllis was one of those special personalities, Dan. She lit up a room.
Yeah.
And at that time, there were no women sportscasters around, okay? There was a Jane Chastain was working at it down in Miami, and that was the only one I remember. But the folks, the men in particular, they welcomed Phyllis on a Sunday morning. And she wound up being just a great host. And then the next year, the summer, I get a call, Brent, do you know a gambler by the name of Jimmy the Greek? And I said, are you kidding? When I stopped by Las Vegas, of course I know the Greek. I want to put him on the show. And I hesitated there, and I said, what does the commissioner think? Oh, we're going to have a meeting with him. He's going to be fine. Now, the one thing I knew about Pete Rozelle, I'd always seen him at the Kentucky Derby. I knew he was a horse player. I'd seen him at Acton, so I said, well, he knows a little bit about gambling. So we had a delightful meeting. It was Wessler, the Greek, and Brent over in Park Avenue, the NFL office. It could not have been nicer. And we get up to leave, and he said, one thing, he said, I'd like to ask a favor. Now, when a commissioner tells the three of us a favor, you know it's an order coming down the line, okay? He said, I want you guys, when you do your show, please don't mention -3, +7. Now, okay, I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's the whole point of this exercise. So, but we all said, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And on the way back, we said, what are we going to do? And we brought in some of the technical people, and we rehearsed. And they managed to devise the checkboard for the Greek. People remember those early days, okay. And if the Greek checked about 4 on one side, you knew it was cover 7. That team's going to cover the deal. And then one day, about 3 years later, the Greek took ill and couldn't make the show. We found out on Saturday, and I said, well, listen, my friend Pete Rose is in town, and I knew he liked to gamble on anything that moved. So I called Pete, and I said, Pete, I know this is Brent. I said, listen, a favor, can you come over? And so he came over. And to this day, when I run into him, he said, you should have kept me. I was a better handicapper than the Greek. Okay, that was my guy, Pete Rose, okay?
Should Pete be in the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely, and I would put an asterisk at the bottom of it. I think the bottom of the plaque should read he was suspended, and whatever the year was, for gambling on baseball. I think it should be in there. I don't think you should ignore history, and that's part of history.
Yeah, and also, you know, if he bet when he was playing, then I understand that. If he manipulated games, I know what he did as a manager, but I still have to. It's like when you cheat in grad school. I can't take away what you did in your undergrad.
Exactly.
And that's why, you know, I look at Pete, and those are two separate things. He is Brent Musburger, Hall of Famer, lead broadcaster, managing editor of Las Vegas Stats and Information Network. VSiN, the original member of NFL Today, CBS. And you can learn more. The Sports Betting Network, Countdown to Kickoff with Brent Musburger. It's great to have you in, as always.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What a staff you got.
Yeah, I do.
How about these people getting up early in the morning out here? That's right.
Jim Nance will join us coming up next. Final hour on this Wednesday. Dan and the Danettes, Marvin, Fritzy, Seaton, Paulie, yours truly, and a great audience here at the Fountain Blue Hotel.